I am the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. I am also you, as I live inside each and every one, as the divine consciousness, Christ consciousness, that everyone is endowed with. I, as Jesus the Christ, am but an external representation of Christ consciousness, but Christ consciousness is within you too. I am not the only Son of the Father. You are all sons and daughters of this most magnificent intelligence I've called Father, and many call God. You are no different than me, in that you have the same potential to be a Christ, to be enlightened as I was. Indeed, it is everyone's destiny to become enlightened. This is not apparent because you're aware of only this one lifetime that you're living. But if you are familiar with the progression of lifetimes you and everyone else is living, you would see that these lives lead to one thing, enlightenment, which is to say they lead you back home to love, to your own divine nature. Enlightenment is a state of true seeing, of seeing the truth about who you are and where you came from. This truth is not evident from your ordinary state of consciousness as a human being. You see through a glass darkly, and that is the essential difference between you and the Jesus you knew me as and the non-physical ascended or enlightened being that I am now. I knew the truth and taught the truth when I was alive 2,000 years ago, and I'm here to offer it to you today, which I can do easily enough with the help of this and other channels. Channeling, or the gift of clairaudience, is a way that people have communicated with those in other dimensions throughout time. Channeling is not new, although it is out of favor with those of a more scientific bent, and even with many who are religious, who've been taught that communicating with beings in higher realms only happened to extraordinary people in the Bible and to some saints, not to people today. It is true that most do not have this ability, but there have always been some who have, and who've shared their insights throughout history for the betterment of humanity. Edgar Cayce was one such example. Regardless of what you think of channeling, it is the way I'm able to speak to you today. If you are open and willing to listen, then please continue to listen, for I have much to say to you that relates to my past, your world today, your lives, and your well-being. I have shared my teachings extensively through this channel, and I will continue to do so here as well. But I also want to share some things about myself, my past, and my perspective on the world that I haven't shared before. These are trying times indeed, but so much good is also occurring on planet Earth, which I and others like myself are celebrating. I'd like to begin by explaining who I was and what was and was not true about my life and teachings 2,000 years ago. I will also tell you more about my current mission. Accepting this might require suspending some of your beliefs, as some of this information may be unfamiliar or in conflict with what you currently believe. Nevertheless, it is important to me to set the record straight. There is much I'd like to correct and explain so that you understand the truth about my lifetime as Jesus, my teachings, and my current work with humanity. First of all, let me say that Jesus was but one of many lifetimes on earth, the most illustrious one from your standpoint, but not from mine. I was a simple man then, standing up for what I believed and teaching the truth as I knew it. I was a spiritual teacher and a healer, but I was no more special than you, no less human, and no more divine. I was enlightened, however, and that is what set me apart and what people recognized in me and revered. In those times it was uncommon to meet someone who was enlightened, although it is less so today. Many assumed that I was a perfect human being or a god, but I was not. I was human, with all the emotions and egoic tendencies of every human being. However, I had learned to master my lower nature or ego, including my emotions, for the most part, although I still experienced emotions. I was human and I was divine, just as you are. Most people haven't actualized their divine self, or at least to the extent that I and other enlightened or awake beings have. This human life is a journey of discovering and uncovering your divine self and learning to live as that. What I mean by enlightened is that I didn't have to return to another earthly lifetime after my lifetime as Jesus. I had completed my journey and lessons as a human being, as will each of you at some point. In fact, I had already completed that journey before I came into that lifetime. I came then not for my own evolution, but to fulfill a certain destiny, of which you are well aware. At a certain point during that lifetime, I realized I had a destiny and generally understood what that destiny was, since I was closely in touch with the Father, or the guidance being given me from higher dimensions. And I was committed to following that guidance regardless of the trials entailed in that. I knew I would face great difficulties in executing my mission, as humanity was in a very primitive state and for the most part deeply ignorant and capable of great cruelty. Despite that, I gladly took on this challenge, for I saw the opportunity to affect many with my sorely needed message of love. Someone had to come to earth to fulfill this destiny, and I enthusiastically volunteered. I welcomed the opportunity to try to free those I could from their shackles of ignorance. I also foresaw that, after my death, many of these teachings would be co-opted by egos, distorted, and put in service to a hierarchical religion that would be carried out in my name. Still, the teachings needed to be brought to earth for the relative few who could understand them and pass them on. My purpose was never to establish a religion, and I understood that people would turn what I said or what they thought I said into a religion. But there was only so much I could do about that, or about how people might interpret the teachings after I was gone. That was up to them, and many lessons have resulted from that. Nevertheless, over the centuries, I've done my best from this dimension to shape these teachings through monks, nuns, priests, ministers, higher authorities in the church, and ordinary people who've been able to connect with me intuitively. I have always been present within the Christian church, behind the scenes, inspiring and leading people to the truth, to the extent that I've been able to, and to the extent that people have been open to me and to the truth. Despite this, many distortions in my teachings remain. And I am present in your churches, in the buildings where you worship. My presence in churches is real, and it is felt. That is authentic, even if some of what is taught is inaccurate. Wherever I am called upon, I appear, and whenever you call upon me, I am there. I am real, and I am experienced in people's hearts. The truth I taught is real, and that is experienced in your hearts as well. Many who experience me in these sacred settings tend to trust and believe what the Church says, because of their very real experience of me. But trusting your experience of me and trusting the dogma of the Church are two very different things. This has been very confusing for many. They are having true spiritual experiences within a structure founded on certain untruths. It's not surprising that people were willing to accept certain untruths without questioning them in exchange for the sense of spiritual connection they truly wanted and felt. I would like all religious and spiritual people to know that they can connect with me anywhere and any time. No religion or even a church building is needed to experience me and the truth I represent. This truth is the truth of your own divine nature, for that is what you are experiencing when you experience me. All I ask is that you be discriminating about your religious beliefs and accept only those that take you to love. Shortly, I will enumerate the specific distortions or lies within Christianity that you can let go of. The truth I came to teach is love. Love your neighbor as yourself, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Such simple yet powerful truths and guidelines that, if applied, could change the world. The truth is simple, and it is self-evident, although not easy to practice. Knowing the truth is the beginning of changing the world. Too many were and still are living according to false beliefs instead of the truth. I came to earth to try to change that, to be a voice in a vast desert of misunderstandings, and I continue to be a voice for truth to the extent that I can from this dimension. I never really left you. I have never ceased being in service to humanity and your beautiful planet. I came to earth to change people's hearts and minds, but people don't like their beliefs questioned. Those who do this will always be attacked by the ignorant, the narrow-minded, and the power-hungry. Mistaken beliefs come from the ego and support the ego, and egos don't want their monopoly on beliefs disturbed. Such beliefs uphold the hierarchy and the supposed superiority of the few at the top, and I came to earth to topple that, to promote equality, freedom, peace, and happiness for all. If this situation sounds familiar, it's because not much has changed over the centuries. The ego is still in power and creating inequality and unhappiness for all, even for those at the top. That is the tragedy. The ego's ways ultimately make everyone miserable. No one wins when the ego is in charge. But how can this change if people don't understand what the ego is, and that an ego-driven life is not the only possibility? I came to show people what was possible, not only that they could be happy with little, but that they were in fact children of an infinitely wealthy and generous Father, and that a happy and an abundant life is within everyone's reach, not just in a supposed heaven. Once the truth is understood, inner and outer riches and contentment are possible for any and all who are willing to live according to the truth. The truth I speak of is love. Allowing love to guide you in your life is all that is required to live a blessed life, one full of love and other types of abundance, creativity, joy, fulfillment, beauty, and adoration of the one God abiding within everything, giving life to everything. It is that, the divinity in all, that I came into life to honor and spread the word about. The lowliest and the mightiest in society are equally beloved in the eyes of God, in the eyes of that which is behind all of creation, and which lives and breathes through all of creation. One thing I would like you to understand is that every soul, not just me, descends from the Father, from the originator of all life. Everyone is a son or daughter of God. Then each soul takes on many, many lifetimes, thousands of them, on Earth or on some other planet, with a goal of finding its way back to love. Reincarnation was one of the teachings that was removed from the Bible by the Church Fathers, who found this idea inconvenient and threatening. The idea of heaven and hell was much simpler, and it helped keep people in line. If you do what we tell you and go to church every Sunday, you will go to heaven. If you don't, you will go to hell. But life is so much more complex than this, and so much more benevolent. As you progress through your many lifetimes on earth, you eventually learn that you come from love and are made of love, but only after first losing your way by following the ego and experiencing the depths of suffering entailed in that. When you finally discover the truth that sets you free from the prison of the ego, that is a blessed life indeed. But that is only the beginning of the journey back home to love. Then love has to be practiced moment to moment until you become that love. When that love has so permeated your being that all karma is balanced and no new karma is being created, you are said to be enlightened, and your soul no longer needs to return to the physical plane. Once you have graduated from the earthly plane, you continue to exist in higher non-physical dimensions, each with its own experiences, lessons, service, and purpose, which the soul continually grows from. In these higher dimensions, there is no suffering. The suffering you experience on earth is unique to that phase in the soul's evolution. These higher dimensions are the basis for the teachings about heaven. In that sense, heaven is real, as many who have experienced these higher dimensions as a result of near-death experiences and out-of-body travels can attest to. For eons, I have existed in higher dimensions, in the 5th and 6th. I have also tasted the 7th. My life on earth as Jesus was as a Savior, that is true, and I will explain what I mean by that shortly. Although returning to the earthly plane from higher dimensions as I did may seem like a great sacrifice, I didn't see it that way. Those in higher dimensions exist to serve. It is our joy to do so. It is our reason for being. It is how we give glory to the Father. Throughout human history, higher dimensional beings have regularly reincarnated to serve humanity. So I am not special in this. Yes, I came as a Savior, but that is happening throughout the universes. Throughout all of creation, Saviors are sent to serve those in need. As I have so often said, benevolence is behind creation. Those of us in higher dimensions live for love and live in service to love, and our service is to point those who are lost toward love. I came to earth to save you from your false beliefs. The only means I had for saving you was to teach you the truth. And that is what I was crucified for teaching love. My teachings were felt to be seditious. They upset those in power who wanted to remain in power. The authorities believed I was revolutionary and thought I wanted their power, but they were wrong. I had no use for earthly power, no desire whatsoever for any of the things most people crave and mistakenly believe will make them happy. I knew better. I knew that happiness could never exist where love was not. I came to teach that, not grab for power, not even spiritual power. I did not come to build a church or found a religion, but to correct the distortions within the religion of that day. This is also my intent today, as many of the teachings attributed to me were misunderstood and are distortions of the truth. I'll do my best to correct these misunderstandings here.